Alright guys, so this video lecture focuses on ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is judging others in terms of one's own cultural standards. Once people go through the process of learning their own culture, they tend to become strongly committed to it. And a lot of times we can't even imagine another way of life because our culture is so ingrained in us. And then we may go on to judge others in terms of our own cultural standards. And that's what ethnocentrism is. It's really not unique to any one country or group of people. And because people internalize our own cultures, we often feel uncomfortable when we're confronted with an unfamiliar culture. And ethnocentrism is part of the reason why people have culture shock whenever they visit new places. Okay, so Boston is a place that has a lot of pride in their city, and they could be considered ethnocentric. So could New Yorkers. Both Bostonians and New Yorkers think the world revolves around their cities, so they're very ethnocentric. Texas is also a very ethnocentric state. And the phrase, "don't mess with Texas," that is an example of ethnocentrism. We believe that we're the best. And here are some examples of ethnocentrism. This is the world according to Americans. There are many more examples of ethnocentrism. The Olympic Games are more than just an arena of athletic competition. The Games are also an expression of ethnocentrism. Political and nationalistic undercurrents run through the Olympics, and a country's final ranking in this competition for gold, silver, and bronze medals is frequently taken as a reflection of the country's status on the world stage. So the Olympics are a great example of ethnocentrism. So does ethnocentrism help or hurt society? Ethnocentrism actually has two faces. It offers both advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages is that ethnocentrism helps people feel good about themselves and others in their group when they believe that what they are doing is superior. Stability is also promoted because of traditions and behaviors which are valued through ethnocentrism. Patriotism is a great example of positive ethnocentrism. A lot of times that comes about in times of war, and it brings people together, brings some stability. And people are more likely to uphold traditions and values if they believe that these traditions and values are superior to the traditions and values held by other groups. And so by supporting traditions and values from the generation before us, society remains stable. So that's another one of the advantages. If society is too rigid, however, and too stable, it can become inflexible. And extreme ethnocentrism can prevent change for the better. Societies whose members are firmly convinced of their superiority tend not to create anything new or accept new ideas. The ancient Chinese, for example, built a series of walls to keep invaders out. And the walls helped unify China, but they also helped and made new ideas stay out. And as a result, China's culture changed very slowly over the centuries. So it can prevent change for the better. Okay, so extreme ethnocentrism can also have a much darker side. It can divide people and lead to hatred and violence. So look at that picture of Hitler for a moment. Adolf Hitler's final solution was ethnocentrism at its very worst. Hitler and his Nazi regime attempted to wipe out European Jewish people and other minorities in an effort to establish racial purity. The result was the slaughter of some 6 million Jews and large numbers of people from other targeted groups. In the United States, racial ethnocentrism led to discrimination against African Americans and other minority populations for decades. The Civil Rights Movement was born to combat the effects of this ethnocentrism. So ethnocentrism can be positive and negative. So just to review, some positive examples of ethnocentrism include the Olympic Games, school pep rallies, and even the Boston Pride movement that came after the Boston Marathon bombing. Some negative examples include Hitler's final solution and the ethnocentric map of the world that we looked at earlier. Although it may seem like different cultures have little in common, researchers have identified more than 70 common cultural traits. Those common traits are called cultural universals, the general cultural traits that exist in all cultures. American anthropologist George Murdoch defined some of these cultural universals in the 70s. Here's a list of cultural universals that he came up with that exist in all cultures. Another great example of a cultural universal is smiling.